welcome to another WeebOut video. I know I've covered a similar topic in the past as to why Gen 6 was the downfall of Pokemon, but let's flip it on its head and be positive as we dive headfirst into the new year. So today, we're going to be talking Gen 5, and I'm going to give you 10 reasons as to why it's the best Pokemon generation our boys at Game Freak has blessed us with. And before we get started, if you can hit the like and subscribe button down below, it'd be very much appreciated. So now, let's get on with the video. Number 1. The characters. Generation 5 introduces us to the Univer region full of various different characters, with various different personalities, and various different quirks. That's a lot of various different stuff. 2 of the first people you meet are your childhood friends, who are rivals that are nowhere near as repulsive as ones from other generations. And the beauty of Black 2 and White 2 is that we can see genuine character development within both Sharon and Bianca, with Sharon being a normal type gym leader and Bianca being Professor Juniper's assistant. And let's not forget about Hugh and his funky ass hair. And although he's just a purloin hungry flint, the absolute vibe that he brings that contrasts the friendly rivals you were used to back in Black and White is something that was very well needed. Let's also mention the gym leaders, who even they get their own character development, as this sees the likes of Elisa doing hot girl shit to the next level, Bryson pursuing a life of acting, and Iris becoming Univer champion. Next up with number 2 is the music. Pokemon has had some bangers and absolute humdingers when it comes to their music selection in the Pokemon games, with iconic ones such as the Piano Masterclass for the Cynthia battle, the trumpets of the Hoenn region as you take down Team Magma and Aqua, and let's not forget just the Arceus theme that is just a battle cry? Was the game just mad at you for awakening the Pokemon god? We may never know. Anyway, Gen 5 blows these all out of the water. And let me just make the music do the talking, because I've got to say, they're all majestic in their own ways. Moving on to number 3, the sequels. Although Gen 2 does this a little bit with its connection to Gen 1, the sequels of the Univer games were an absolutely brilliant idea that I'm surprised the newer gens haven't done much of. The Univer region was shown to have so much change within the space of 2 years, leading to new trainers, new gym leaders, new cities, and dungeons to explore. You also see the return of people you came across in your original Pokemon Black and White journey, as I mentioned before, doing various different things. Let's also not forget to mention that the introduction of Neo Team Plasma was a masterstroke in Game Freak's books, showing the fall of N's reign over the old Team Plasma regime and taken by the scruff of the neck by Ghetsis. Also, thanks for the Zoroark Rude. Pretty kind of you for a rude guy. Speaking of re-encountering people who you've come across on past Pokemon journeys, for number 4, it's time to talk about Join Avenue. Join Avenue has to be one of the best things Gen 5 had to offer as a kid. Although in the grand scheme of things it wasn't much, it gave you an opportunity to connect with your friends in a new way. Simply put, they were assigned a character type depending on what you put on your trainer card, so if you put Ace Trainer, you'd appear as one, and bada boom bada bing. You join each other's Join Avenue, in which you can buy various items, some of which may be hard to obtain or just inconveniently uncommon. Even just the sight of seeing people on your Join Avenue and letting it grow into this beautiful marketplace is something that always had a special place in my heart. And on the topic of things that were an absolute beauty to behold, next up we have the cities for number 5. Castelia City, here we go. The motto for one of the most glorious cities Pokemon have ever had to offer. One that imitates New York City. It is subdivided into 3D-esque streets, which was new to the games, offering an opportunity to showcase some really well done side profiling. Whether it's the alley, that may or may not be helpful for Meloetta owners, the gym, and Castelia Tower in the far left, or even just trying to get a Castelia cone. And let's not pretend like the Univer region didn't host a number of interesting and beautiful cities on top of Castelia, with Nimbasa, home to multiple sports stadiums, an amusement park, and a grand train station, and a fashion venue. Or on top of that, what about the likes of Humulao City? I mean, wow. Talk about an improvement on a water-themed city like Sutopolis, where I have to literally use that HM move to get into. And also, that gym is just pure memories. I mean, it was painful, but like a good painful. Although, it's never really that painful when lily pads are involved, is it? I should probably shout out some towns as well. I mean, Undella and Lacunosa Town were the definition of a serene and laid-back rural area, sparkled with mysteries to behold. And, maybe don't enter that building. Time to move on to number 6, the Battle Subway. The Battle Subway had 8 different platforms, each of which had its own theme, whether it was single, double, multi, super single, double, multi, or a Wi-Fi train to battle people online. With this, you were able to redeem battle points or BP to use towards normally expensive or harder to obtain items. And although this is just a battle tower in a different form, everything from the music, the design, and even the subway bosses Ingo and Emmett were glorious to behold. I grew up thinking Ingo and Emmett were like one of the coolest designs ever, and it made me fanboy about wanting to be the super cool train conductor one day. Well, let's keep that as a maybe one day thing for now. Oh, and I nearly forgot, you actually encounter your opposite gender doppelganger, which is pretty cool in itself. I should probably address why I only brought up 7 different platforms earlier, despite saying there were 8, and that was because one of them was actually used to get to Anvil Town, which is in itself pretty nifty. However, I concede that the newer generation with Sword and Shield does this whole train destination thing a lot better. But it is probably safe to say that no generation does dungeons better than Univer, and that's number 7. And yes, you may not have missed the tedious treachery of trying to navigate Victory Road. Admit it, you looked it up the first time, and that in itself was very rewarding. However, the puzzles that came with Chargestone Cave, Giant Chasm, and its legendary tales, the hot and spicy Reversal Mountain, the sandy Desert Resort, and the dreaded Castelia Sewers were all brilliant examples of what we need. And yes, story progression is important, but too much story, as evident in the newer games, is just a bit dead. And to make up for the lack of dungeons in the newer games, you instead get stupidly easy methods to level up when you should really be grinding it out and be deserving of those high levels. And Gen 5 conclusively hits the nail on the head with quality and quantity of these dungeons. Number 8, the PWT. Otherwise known as the Pokemon World Tournament, the PWT was arguably one of the best things in all of the Pokemon games ever. It featured a tournament-style single-elimination knockout that included facing trainers, gym leaders, Elite Four, and champions. And if you wanted to test your luck on the competitive scene, you could take it online too, by talking to the other lady. And although this has been brought up on so many occasions about the whole remastering of music and everything for these battles, they were absolutely superb. And it's this sort of thing that makes you wonder why Pokemon hasn't brought something like this back. I mean, it could have just been the PWT again. I'm not quite sure why they haven't. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. Next up for number 9 are the side quests that lead you into interesting, intriguing findings. The Univer region is home to a lot of mystery, and inevitably got you wondering about a few things. So, what were, or who were, Yancey and Curtis, and what purpose did they really have? Are they descendants of another region? And is that why they have so many items you would normally find hard to come by in the Univer region? Why do we have hidden grottos, or dream worlds? And why have we suddenly learned about their existence now? What about the ghost girl who appears on Marvelous Bridge and only to reappear for a little while in the Strange House? I'm probably missing some, but you guys get the point. There are so many theories and intriguing side story elements that really kept this game fresh and full of incentive. Last but certainly not least, the Pokemon. Of course it was going to be about the Pokemon in this gen. Univer brought to us a whole bunch of new type combinations, new Pokemon designs, and incorporated their legendaries, quite interestingly, into their storyline. Some of my favorite include the starters, with Oshawott being so adorable as always, Snivy being that bitch that is going to slice and dice you up, and Tepig, another firefighting type. It started off cute, but Snivy and Oshawott and their respective evolution lines blow Tepig out of the water. Or grass. That was a joke, and you were supposed to laugh. Anyway, there were also Pokemon like Hydreigon and Haxorus, who are absolutely epic tyrants of the competitive game, showing what a wonderful times things were like before everyone countered dragons with Togekiss and Gardevoir. And special mentions to some other favorites such as Scrafty, Seismitoad, Sock, and Throw, and even Lilligant. Oh, and Chandelure and Ferrothorn. And maybe we throw in Golurk. Long story short, there were a lot of amazing Pokemon introduced in this generation, and I love the way they handled it in terms of the integration of new Pokemon and old ones. I mean, it makes sense for us to really learn about the Univer Pokemon first and get used to it sort of thing before we reintroduce the old ones. I believe it really helps put to light all the hard work Game Freak put in towards this brilliant display of Pokemon when they put it this way. I have tuckered myself out being super excited about Generation 5 and the Univer region and just generally how amazing it was. Yes, part of it was the nostalgia I get from it nearly being a decade ago, but that shouldn't discredit anything I've said in this video. But, as always, leave your comments, feedback, and maybe some suggestions on what could have been included in this video. I'd love to read them. And that concludes today's video on WeebOut. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and cheers.